Welcome to the Nerds of Comedy. Today we are talking about Cannonball Run 2. That's right, we are skipping over the original and going straight to the sequel. Now, Cannonball Run 2 is either a bad movie with moments of greatness, or it is a great movie with moments of badness. Not sure that makes sense, but we're gonna go with it. Today's episode is different than any other episode we've done before for a lot of reasons. Number one, we are joined on this episode by Sid Bridge and James Rodatus. They are the hosts of the Reels and Wheels podcast. It's actually a co-production with Reels and Wheels. Reels and Wheels is a podcast that looks at movies from the car's point of view. We have known James and Sid for a long time. These guys are two incredibly funny stand-up comedians, so we're really excited about that. Also, this is the longest episode we have ever done. Sid and James are car nerds, and you will see that in this episode. They go deep into the cars in Cannonball Run 2. Brad and I, not so much car guys. You can see us kind of glaze over at points. I'm just joking. I actually learned a lot about cars in this episode. My car, the Mazda 5, actually gets name dropped in this episode. This episode was a lot of fun. Go ahead and check it out right now. The Nerds of Comedy presents Cannonball Run 2.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to a special edition. This is both Reels and Wheels podcast and Nerds of Comedy all together as one. So Sid Bridge here along with my co-host James Rodatus. Say hi, James.
Hi, everyone.
And we're gonna have a lot of fun today because joining us are the Nerds of Comedy podcast guys. We got Sean Devereux and Brad McMurran from the Pushers. Welcome, guys.
Hey, glad to be here.
I know. Look, we've been waiting way too long to get a chance to do this, I feel like, and we're finally all together in one podcast. And did we pick like an epic movie, maybe something Oscar-worthy, maybe something that people remember positively for all eternity?
No, not at all.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
All right, so here's the thing, folks. There's no question that a lot of bad things are going on in the world. We've got pandemics, we've got riots, we've got police behaving badly, to put it mildly. But folks, you can't be plugged in all the time. You'll get compassion fatigue, you'll wear yourself out. Sometimes you need just great mindless entertainment. And folks, it does not get any more mindless than Cannonball Run 2.
No, not at all. This is shut off your brain for 88 minutes or however long this movie is. It's actually kind of, wait, I'm looking at, 108 minutes. Wow, it's a lot longer than I thought it was.
There's 108 minutes of movie. I think there's about 10 minutes of actual cannonball racing.
Right.
Yeah, that's something I want to talk to when we get there. Yeah, it's not really much of a race in this one.
I personally speaking, y'all are saying that there was no thinking. This was the most thinking I've done during the pandemic. I had to remember back to a little bit of the stories that happened from part one and how the Sheik at the beginning, he buys the cannonball now. And I was like, that's right. The first one, I don't remember who sponsored the first Cannonball Run now that I think about it. But in this one, the Sheik bought it. Is that right? Am I getting the story right on this?
That's right.
Yeah. So it made me think, but not very existentially, James Rodatus. You know what I mean?
Well, continuity credit here. It is a direct sequel. Like it literally is the consequences of the first race being dealt with by all the racers, and everybody's getting back together. A few people have been recast, you know.
Yeah, quite oddly, yeah.
A couple of actor swaps.
Yeah, like who's the boss character?
Tony Danza takes the place of Terry Bradshaw. That was a weird kind of switch.
Yeah.
And also the Lamborghini girls, same characters, two totally different girls. And that's, this is a peek into the mind of Reels and Wheels hero, Hal Needham. Hal is the guy responsible for all the great stunt car movies of the late 70s, early 80s. Smoking the Bandit 1 and 2, Cannonball Run 1. Hooper. You know how neat a movie when you see it. He's both brought us some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows we have had on Real.
Did he do Stroker Ace?
Yeah, he did Stroker Ace.
Yeah.
And then talking about the lowest of lows,
That's
Megaforce.
pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh, we have
Megaforce.
done
Yes,
Megaforce.
we did Megaforce.
I didn't see Megaforce. Y'all gave me something to do. I saw all the other ones, but yeah.
If you ever want to see Barry Bostwick on a flying motorcycle, Megaforce, that's your movie.
Wearing a gold lame jumpsuit, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brad, it's one of those, so when you see it, you're like, oh, I remember this movie from as a kid. And even as a kid, I wanted to like it so bad. It was it's just not a good movie. But we're here for Cannonball Run 2. So real quick, what we do, we get on our show, we give people just a really quick breakdown about the plot of the movie. It's literally a race. And the first one, it was a race from New York to California, based on a real life road race that's was going on in the 70s. Yes. And then the sequel, the race is now from LA to Connecticut, which is
the actual starting point of the original Cannonball.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. And to give folks a little bit of some background on the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. It had always been there, but it gained a lot of notoriety because of a man named Brock Yates. So that was in 1971, Dan Gurney and Brock Yates. And there were some other attempts, 71, 72. And not only that, in this movie, our two heroes, JJ and Captain Chaos, they're driving in the Nuke TAC team olive drab limousine. People did stuff like that in the Cannonball Run. A couple people tried, I don't know if they held a record, but they set a pretty good time in an ambulance.
The ambulance gig from the first movie was actually the one used by Brock Yates. And it was the actual ambulance that Burt Reynolds was driving in that movie.
That was, I'm sorry, I know we're going to talk about Cannonball Run 2, but I mean, it has to be said before we move on. Cannonball Run is childhood for me, and more importantly, like, I'm still obsessed with it. So this was lovely to go back and have to watch this sequel. Yeah.
Well, Burt Reynolds, if you're a man of a certain age, was integral to your childhood. You know, he gave you so many gems, and then also, I mean, if we're honest here, showed us the danger of not quitting while you're ahead. The thing is, instead, we've talked about this before with Stroker Ace. It seemed like a lot of the movies he made, like Gator and Cannonball Run 2, Stroker Ace, he just kind of made them so we could hang out with his friends.
Yeah.
And if you're a studio greenlighting Cannonball Run 2, you've got to be crazy. But let's be honest, guys. If Burt Reynolds called you up and said, hey, you want to hang out and get drunk in the desert while Hal Needham wrecks some cars? Hell yeah, you go. How could you not?
Did you go? So, Sean, you were walking us through the plot there, and you covered kind of the aspect of this being a race. And I feel like the side plot takes this movie over. And
yeah, that I would say that's the problem. And the Cannonball, the original movie, the first movie, it was literally the story was the race. In this movie, Jamie Farr's character, the Sheik, he is disgraced by his father for losing the Cannonball.
Con!
Yeah, absolutely.
Ricardo Montalban.
So back some Mars Con memories for me.
Yes.
So he buys the race, the Cannonball race, so they can do it again. So not only does he buy the race, but he's putting up the prize money so he can win the race and win honor back from his father. So, but you have this weird side plot with these gangsters. This gangster out of Vegas, played by, was it Rip Torn?
Charles Nelson
Riley. Charles Nelson Riley, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Charles Nelson Riley, who is the son of some big gangster. There's like this whole kind of like Godfather parody going on.
Wait a minute. This cat is dead. Give me a new cat. Oh, God. The cat could have been a contender. That's what, oh, thank you. It's a tabby. Very nice. boy.
The big gangster, by the way, the Godfather, is Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, Dom DeLuise plays the
notorious for
Godfather.
doing a Don Corleone impersonation, so he doubles up.
Lean on Doc.
He's awesome.
But
I've got a huge crush on him.
They literally steal every, you know, aside from Al Pacino and Marlon Brando, they steal pretty much everybody from the original Godfather movie. You have like Abe Vigoda, and you had Alex Rocco, Henry Silva, all these guys. So that's the plot or the subplot, which kind of takes over, is these gangsters trying to kidnap the Sheik.
Well, and you know, the fun thing is, not only are we bothering, really we are bothering, but we're borrowing Godfather people and references everywhere, but also after getting slapped on the wrist in the last movie for having Roger Moore basically playing Roger Moore.
Step back, my dear. I must warn you, I'm Roger Moore. Roger Moore.
Who's not actually Roger Moore, because the James Bond production people got really mad. They doubled down on James Bond references in this movie.
God.
They
And,
really
like,
did.
went nuts, pulling all the James Bond pieces and actors. I mean, Telly Savalas, who was there for being a gangster, but also was Blofeld in a Bond movie. And we had Richard.
Richard
I played him.
Keith, Jaws,
who was on
That's
the
right,
stake.
yeah. Now, he's the one that, is he with Jackie Chan, or did I get that mixed up?
He's with Jackie Chan.
And then the sub design, when the Jackie Chan's car goes into the lake and turns into a submarine, is pretty much the sub from, or the look of the sub from what, Spy Who Loved Me?
Spy Who Loved
For Your
Me.
Eyes Only. Spy Who Loved Me.
Obviously, Spy Who Loved Me, that was a white first generation Lotus Esprit. We have in this movie a Mitsubishi Starion, which I guess we should have warned you guys at first. The cars in this movie, like the Dodge Daytona, the Mitsubishi Starion, the Bricklin SV1, Sid and I could do an audio book on just the cars in this movie. So
I heard you nerding out earlier, and I know your love for cars there, Mr. Rodatus. I did not know, Sid, that you were, are you a huge car guy as well?
Yeah, so if you have not really listened to Reels and Wheels, what you need to know is that James is an autocrosser and like really into he autocrossed a GTI. He's like road racing,
rally
Formula
racing,
One.
that sort of thing.
I knew this about James, believe it or not. James and I had plenty of talks, but Sid, what's your kind of thing?
I am an old school muscle car guy. I own a 1968 Oldsmobile Cutlass with a big block 425 in it, and I also daily which this got me excited too. I daily a 1989 Firebird, and there were two third gen Firebirds in this movie. One of them was a police car. Which just it was awesome. So yeah, like the dynamic here is that James doesn't understand is that, you know, a big lead-footed American car is better in all situations.
Except when it means going fast or turning fast, in which case it doesn't do that well.
Okay, we don't go turn fast, fine, but you know, we look good and sound good doing it. Now, and here's the thing you have to keep in mind about this movie, because we're talking 1984 here, and we're talking about people when they should have quit while they were ahead. So 84 is the height of what we call the malaise era in America, when cars, they sucked, right? Like they were not good. So we're trying to recapture lightning in a bottle, but the cars we've got to do it with are nowhere near the stuff they had even in the first Cannonball.
That's what I wanted to ask, because you guys are the car guys. I mean, all four of us are comedians, but you two are the car guys. Me not being a car guy, I like the cars in the first movie way better. Even the ambulance is a lot cooler than the Nuke-mobile or the giant Cadillac or limo that Burt Reynolds has in this movie.
Yeah, the limo is a Chrysler. What did they do to that thing?
Doesn't even really matter. It was either a LeBaron or whatever, maybe the New Yorker, but not like the cool New Yorker from the 60s. Chrysler had a thing in the early 80s where you had like the flat front ends with like the pop-up headlights in the grill, and it just looked awful. And so they made it look even worse by turning it green and making it longer.
Even then you have Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin there.
Dean Martin.
They had the Ferrari?
No, they had a C4 Corvette, which for 1984, I'll grant you, wasn't bad.
But compared to their car in the first movie, they had the Ferrari in the first movie, didn't they? The red Ferrari.
Okay, yeah, and there's some baffling things that happen surrounding this Corvette. Like first of all, there's a scene where it passes the limo and it suddenly transforms into a Dodge Daytona, and then it's a Corvette again.
That's why I was a little late. I wanted to make sure I could believe my eyes and see that.
Yeah, I had to rewatch that scene.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not a car guy, but I remember that part as well. I had to rewind it. As like, wait a minute, was that a screw up right there? Because the Corvette was kind of a convertible, right? And it definitely did not look like a.
It definitely wasn't a two-tone red and gray car with quad headlights on it. Nope.
Yeah.
See, what's bothering me is I was so tanked when I was watching it. I noticed nothing. I thought it looked just perfectly fine.
Well,
so
also
we can tell we have some differences here.
Also, we have a scene where that Corvette is rather easily passed by a Dodge Daytona, which was. I don't know if you got. We covered the Daytona heavily when we did the Wraith.
Was that when Frank Sinatra is driving?
Yes. And that, by the way, that Daytona was Frank Sinatra's Daytona.
Wait. No, hang on. Seriously.
Yes.
Frank Sinatra, of all the cars Frank Sinatra could ever drive, drove a 1980s vintage, a quad headlights, not even flip-up headlights, Dodge Daytona.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The Sinatra story isn't. Did you guys read the Sinatra story behind this movie?
We did. We talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it. I didn't see the car part though. I saw that he didn't spend much time there.
This was the last on-screen appearance together of the Rat Pack on a movie. This was their last movie together, and Needham was like. He just took a shot at it. He was like, Frank, come be in the movie. I'll set it up so you can either shoot your scenes in a week, 2 days, or 1 day. And Frank opted for the 1 day option, showed up in that Daytona, shot his scenes, showed up 30 minutes early, shot his scenes with no incident, and then left.
Going back to the plot, how does Frank Sinatra figure into all this?
That's a good point.
We have the line, when the Sheikh gets captured, it's okay. We've got royalty in America. And then they go in to Frank Sinatra's office, I guess, at the top of some Las Vegas hotel. And I'm thinking, wow, who's Frank Sinatra playing in this movie? Oh, Frank Sinatra. Okay, fair enough. That's what we're doing.
Mr. Sinatra?
You may call me Frank.
I can call him Frank.
Not yet. I'll let you know when you can. Not exactly now, but I'll let you know.
What can I call you?
Call me sir?
I got it.
It almost seemed like he was the one that came up with their plan for him. It's like, I know what you can do. And then the next scene, you have Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, and Sammy Davis Jr. in drag.
Yeah. Such a strange
belly dancer drag.
I mean, it was strange enough that you have to kind of give a pass to the fact that the Cannonball had started, and they definitely crossed the state line into Arizona when the Sheik, at least at that point when the Sheik is kidnapped, he's kidnapped somewhere in the desert, and then they have to go to Las Vegas to recover him. So I haven't driven from Las Vegas to parts of Arizona, and they started on Redondo Beach. So the scenery here is just all over the map. Like there's no geographically tying this movie together in any way, shape, or form until the actual race begins in the last 2 seconds of the movie.
Well, that's the thing is that Brad and I were talking about this, is that the first literally 70 minutes of the movie is them getting from LA to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 is from Las Vegas to Connecticut, majority of which is animated.
It's cartoonish, or it has like a
literally
cartoon map or something,
Yeah.
Oh, it goes beyond cartoonist. They actually had Frank Welker come in and do cartoon voices for this thing. Like he is credited as a voice actor on this movie.
Oh, for all the cartoony car sounds and everything like that. Yeah. And you have the great Menudo. I had to look this up. Suddenly the Cannonball Run theme is suddenly being sung in Spanish.
Yeah.
And that was
Menudo?
Yeah, it was Menudo. It was actually a hit for them. It was on one of their albums. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So here's where I'm a little upset with you guys. It sounds like y'all are mocking this movie. This is awesome.
All right, you know what I will say about this movie? This was like a train wreck with all of the best stuff hanging out on the train. Like you just saw like sparks of greatness just flying out of train cars and crashing into bridge abutments left and right.
Well, and if you don't mind my jumping in, I apologize. I won't do too much jumping into this, but there is something for me that really, really stuck with me in this one that I wanted to bring up is Sean knows this. During this pandemic, you get into your things because I have no work. So you're reading new things or following your passions. And I got really into Don Knotts, and I'm a huge Tim Conway fan, but the scene where they're the police officers and the monkey just keeps slapping the shit out of them, right? Where where I mean, just completely all over and over and over again.
See that dark glass? Look. You know who's behind that glass filming us? Alan Funt. We're on the candid camera. Come on. It's our chance. Come on, come on. Stand right here. Stand right here. So I can see you. Stand right there. Pardon me, sir. I'd like to see your license, if I might.
Oh, God, I wonder what the penalty is for assaulting a police officer.
He's not going to make a monkey out of me.
But this movie, and even with Jackie Chan's influence coming in, is a very slapsticky, almost Three Stooges movies at times, where you have so much smack and smack and smack. And I was like, and I remember in Cannonball Run that he would always smack Dom DeLuise, but I didn't remember it being this slap happy. And
What is that? Oh, don't worry about that. It's the Cannonball race. It's on again. $1 million is the first prize. Don't you worry. We're going to be billionaires. What will I say? You want me to do this 10 times a day? 9?
Maybe it's because we are in this pandemic that I found myself really enjoying it.
I'm so glad you chimed in with that because I was sitting here watching this movie literally this morning, and that scene pops up, and I love Tim Conway and Don Knotts.
I'm obsessed.
This was like a slice of brilliance in the like. It was it was slapstick, but it was so well executed. Like these guys had such perfect timing, and they were their co-star was an orangutan.
Yeah,
and
it was
with such perfect. I mean, it was so good. Like, that scene. Was
ditto.
There are little highlights throughout. So, I mean, it's by no means a bad movie. It's all over the map, but it's watchable. And there's one thing you can't deny is that there is chemistry all over the place. You know, you have Burt and Dom DeLuise, Jackie Chan.
Stealing every moment he's in. I mean, that big fight he has, there is no reason for the scene. There is no reason.
With the girl?
Yeah,
with the
stand.
When he beats him up, and then the girl music, the romance music would come on, and he would go back to fighting in the romance. I actually liked that a lot. Yeah.
Well, it was so uniquely Jackie Chan. Like his fighting style was there, and his kind of his humor played out. It was almost like they were like, hands off, take it, Jackie. And you know, it was
when that scene starts, you see a bunch of bikers hassling people at a roadside fruit stand. You're like, oh, Jackie Chan is going to show up, and this is going to be so fun. Like, you knew that was going to happen, and you couldn't wait.
Yeah, because the biker fruit stand issue of 1984 was well known. I mean, that you couldn't
everywhere. You couldn't sell fruit.
You couldn't have a fruit stand without like
a dangerous profession. Very dangerous profession. Yeah, that was great.
But then there's like just weird moments, like they get Jim Nabors in.
That's his last movie.
Yeah, it's his last movie as well, and they leave him in the middle of the desert. Like, if you think about it,
as a favor.
Yeah, as a favor. JJ is not a nice person.
No.
He kidnaps and drugs Farrah Fawcett in the first movie.
Yeah.
Essentially kidnaps Jim Nabors' character and then leaves him in the middle of a desert.
And I think that there's a clear, and I don't know if Needham did this intentionally or Burt did it intentionally, but he has never tried to be the hero in these movies.
No,
he never wins, and you don't feel bad.
And Ed Carden, who y'all both know and love, he told me there's no way I could come on here without talking about it, even though we're Cannonball Run too. He and I, since we've met each other, have been doing the Burt Reynolds noise. That's why I started off with it from one where he goes. I don't know if you remember when he does this in there.
You haven't seen our equipment.
Equipment?
miss.
Where this was a form of communication between Ed and I, but we talked about this scene later, is that you're right. JJ is constantly just trying to get laid.
Yeah.
You know, like he really is trying to be the coolest guy in the room and get laid, but otherwise it doesn't matter. The race is just part of this thing he may care about.
And not really good at it. At one point in time, he picks up the two Lamborghini girls. Was it Barbara Bach in this one?
It was Catherine Bach.
Or Catherine Bach.
Daisy Duke herself.
Daisy Duke, yeah.
Yeah, it was Daisy Duke.
He walks off with them, and then the next day he's talking to, you know, Dom DeLuise about how great it was. And then it cuts over to them, and they completely like shoot down like his whatever story he's concocting, you know, didn't really happen. You know.
Well, and he also is constantly cock blocking Dom DeLuise through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not a good friend. Not a good friend.
No, I love heroes like this.
And I will say,
all right, wait. So Brad, so you can do the Burt Reynolds quack. What about the laugh? Have you guys perfected that too, or?
Wait. Let's see. Well, here's the thing. Dom DeLuise too. His kind of, you remember when Chris Farley would play him? I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
That very wheezy kind of emphysema laugh he would do. But no, I don't have Burt Reynolds' laugh. Maybe still down all that well, but I do say he's cool as shit.
I will give him credit because you're right. He is not the hero. I do give Burt Reynolds credit for this, in that in both of these movies, he takes these roles where he doesn't win. This one, he has to dress up in drag. It's not like a very heroic scene, you know, at all. Although it does have one of my funniest bits, and it's because it's so stupid, is when they're hiding behind this little thing, and they got the veils on, and they're trying to get Dean Martin's attention. They keep on going, psst, psst, but in a row, their veils keep flying up every time they do. And they do this like 3 or 4 times. I mean, they run that gag into the ground, but still, I love it.
I think this movie actually also marks the high water mark as far as how large Burt Reynolds let his forehead get before he was finally like, screw it, everybody knows I wear a wig, and just started covering it again. This was like peak, you know, I'm not in good shape Burt Reynolds.
I think you're right. And you know, one other thing that I do think needs to be brought up with these Cannonball Runs for anybody that hadn't seen them, I might say the best. Yeah, I'm going to go as far as to say this. There might be one Will Ferrell movie that I remember did a pretty good job with it too, but maybe the best outtakes I've ever seen in movie history is both in 1 and 2.
Huh? Yeah. Don't you want? You got it. You got it. I don't. No, you got it. I swear. I'm just gonna place it. Oh shit! If I wasn't getting a lot of money.
Their outtakes, if you haven't watched this, are almost as good as the movies themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a Hal Needham trademark.
That was always the highlight of any Burt Reynolds Hal Needham movie for me, was always the credits where they would do all the outtakes. And when I was young, I thought all movies did that, and was always disappointed whenever I would watch a movie and there would be no outtakes.
I wonder if that's where Jackie Chan got it from, or if they got it from Jackie Chan, because Jackie Chan was doing this, you know, doing his movies in the 1970s in Hong Kong. But yeah, that's a hallmark of a good Jackie Chan movie as well, as all the outtakes. And
well, you know what, James, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I hadn't watched, like I just told you about Don Knotts during this pandemic, I've gotten kind of obsessed with Jackie Chan. And you're dead right. I didn't think about it until you just said it. All of the Rush Hours have it at the end.
Yeah.
The Shanghai, whatever it's called, Nights has the. You're right. Yeah.
Rumble in the Bronx. I mean, that was my first exposure to Jackie Chan, and that was sort of it was shot in Vancouver, set in New York, and it was just Jackie Chan and like a few other guys, and that was his sort of big introduction to folks my age.
The Jackie Chan casting, by the way, was like probably one of the biggest parts of financial brilliance on Hal Needham's part in this movie, because it did okay in America. It made a lot of money, and then in Japan, it took in a ton of money. like it became a huge movie there, and I think Jackie Chan was probably one of the main reasons.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, this movie, really good. Shirley MacLaine, talk to me about y'all's feelings on her in it.
So what I read about Shirley MacLaine's involvement was that she was a somewhat last-minute replacement because another actress, one of the women from Charlie's Angels, was originally slated to play that role, and she chickened out because she was scared of the Burt Reynolds environment, which was everybody just riffing and cutting up and drinking and improvising the whole movie. And he didn't want somebody who wasn't comfortable doing that. So Shirley MacLaine actually stepped in at the last minute, from what I understand. It was a little bit weird because she's, she seemed so mature.
Yeah.
Like almost too mature for the movie.
That's what I'm saying. It felt a little out of place. I always love her, but it was a little, I have to say, this was a little weird. I'd forgotten she was in this movie.
Well, I will say Hillary, who is one of our other co-hosts, who Brad and Hillary had this rivalry going on.
Yeah, she won't. I don't bring up her name anymore. Please don't bring up her name.
But I'm going to fill her shoes. For me, the guy side of me was the same as like, it's kind of a poor substitute for Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would, I'm pretty sure that she was the same age or probably even, a little bit younger than Burt Reynolds at this point in time?
Shirley MacLaine?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only problem is Shirley
But
MacLaine, though, is in that league of always being, she's always been 50. She's kind of like, yeah.
No, I agree. But it's one of those funny things is like, dudes like, yeah, I was hoping for a girl, 15 years younger than Burt Reynolds. I love it.
If you needed that age relationship here, we had Ricardo Montalban, 15 years senior of Jamie Farr, playing his father.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had Dom DeLuise as Don Cannelloni, playing the father of Charles Nelson Riley. I don't even want to do the math on that.
That's awesome.
Does Charles Nelson Riley, has he ever played anyone, or do you just hire Charles Nelson Riley to be Charles Nelson Riley?
That was your only option.
Say what you will about Charles Nelson Riley. Because Charles Nelson Riley in this film, excellent Charles Nelson Riley.
Damn good Charles Nelson Riley. It's like one of the best Charles Nelson Rileys that Charles Nelson Riley has ever Charles Nelson Riley'd. It was, especially that scene with him and Sammy Davis Jr.
When they're going over jewelry.
Jewelry.
Yeah. That was always a little fun scene too. Like I said, there's a lot of good and great moments.
The scene when Telly Savalas brings it's coming to get the cash.
Oh, and they hand out the hats.
Yes. And I love just that little subtle scene in it where he says something like, "Is that bag worth your life?" He's like, "No, it's not." He throws it to Burt Reynolds.
My money or your life?
Money. He's got the money.
He's got the money.
Jay.
Yeah, there's some good bits in it.
But you can't mistake this movie's era. I mean, like probably the most egregious thing that goes on in this movie is Charles Nelson Riley claiming he slept with a line of chorus girls.
I love that Charles Nelson. This show's become about Charles Nelson
chorus girl. That was a horrific Charles Nelson Riley impression, but I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, because like in the 80s, we couldn't admit that Liberace was gay, and we most certainly couldn't admit that Charles Nelson Riley was gay. That was just no way, not that guy.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then throw Paul Lynde in that group as well. He's another one that.
Now I'm so glad you said it. He's also, isn't he ranking their dances? Isn't he the guy that's with Dean Martin in that scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he hires them.
That's right. Thank you. My brain just went dead where he's like not so impressed, but Dean Martin talks him into it.
Or I don't know, or if it's a favor for Frank, maybe that's how.
Might be because
he gives them lifelong contracts.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten this. This is awesome.
I love. There's just so Deus Ex Machina in this. So they go to rescue the Sheik. And they get him, and he doesn't want to leave because he's got this all the prostitutes from the ranch are hanging out with him. But they have this big, huge fight scene, and at the end, he's like, "Well, I just bought the ranch. You know, you owe this gangster $10 million here. You know,
Oh, yes.
an additional 10. It's like any stakes that there were just completely and utterly nullified.
Unnecessary. Like the whole thing. Like the sheik had enough money to pay everybody's debt, and all he needed was to throw some girls in front of him. And no bad Arab stereotypes going on here.
Well,
which
I
gives
did
Jamie
love that
Farr again
moment for
legitimately
the,
Arab. So
the final fight scene when you see all the gangster extras show up with the sunglasses on, and again you're looking like, man, Jackie Chan's going to show up and kick some ass now, like, because that has to happen when a bunch of like stuntman extras show up and look menacing.
Well, and we bafflingly had Telly Savalas submit to a scene where Richard Kiel punches him and sends him literally spiraling through the sky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
this part was amazing. I pumped my fist during this. Yes.
And this was a Bond reference because, you know, Kiel was Jaws, and he grits his teeth a lot in this movie. He shows his teeth off all the time, and he does the punch, and then the spin is the same spin from Moonraker where the guy gets punched out of the moon base.
Yeah, the airlock,
And it's like, so it was, and Telly Savalas, of course, was Blofeld. So like this was like a James Bond moment, but it was like wackier than even Roger Moore James Bond got.
Yeah, and you know, also something I know that we try not to talk about too much, but it's kind of glaring not to. Some of the stereotypes in this movie are really, really offensively bad. I don't like when you get to was it Jackie Chan, I think it is playing the Pac-Man game. Do you remember this?
Yes. Yeah.
And there's this strange over the top sort of American Japanese accent or Chinese accent. Where was he from in this? I can't remember.
He's from Japan. He's like, I think
even though he's Chinese and he and Richard Kiel are speaking Chinese, Jackie Chan is supposed to be from Japan.
He's reprising his role from the first movie where he was one of the guys who drove a Subaru.
Gotcha on
was
that.
Was it a Subaru or a Mitsubishi?
In this movie, it's a Mitsubishi. In the first movie, he's driving a Subaru GL like the one I had in high school. Yeah.
I like this is where I like you guys with the reels and wheels here. This is making me happy on this, the cars on it. But yeah, there's stuff going on there that's a little bit like, ooh, I don't know if I would have put that into a today's movie. You know what I mean? Or you see that a lot of these old movies.
Today.
No. You can, although the one actor I got to give big credit to in this movie that doesn't get enough props is the Sheik's slave.
Doug McClure, who was
yes,
kind of a big deal back in like the 50s and 60s.
And he was the inspiration for Troy McClure on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and this scene is practically the inspiration because he's standing there getting slapped and he's like,
that shit
1,000 thank yous. And then they say he hasn't had a show in, hasn't had a series
years or 9 years or something. Yeah.
And that's Troy McClure. Like
I'm so glad you brought up this scene because that smack is another one of those physical, very, very slapstick comedy. That moment's hilarious. What is it? The line he has to say back to him?
1,000 thanks.
Yeah, 1,000 thanks. Yeah.
And then he gets hit twice. He's like 2,000 times.
He's an actor. Hasn't had a series in 7 years.
9. $2,000 thanks.
And he
even with the gangsters, they distract Jamie Farr's character, the Sheik, with this showgirl just standing in the middle of the road. So he stops his car and he leans out to talk to her, and they put a gun up to his head. And he's like, "How dare you!" And he grabs the gun and puts it up to his manservant's head.
Yeah.
And then continues on his conversation.
It's a really good thing that you could see like a sketch team or an improv team coming out with, that's you heighten things, and instead of doing the slap, you put the gun on.
So before we lose Brad, this is technically still a Reels and Wheels episode. So there's a couple of things that I do want to point out because James, I believe you incorrectly mentioned Brooklyn in this. There's not actually a Brooklyn in this movie.
It's in the background.
If
you blink, you miss it. But yeah, Brooklyn SV1 is in this because
there is. I'm sorry, you're right. It's in the background.
Good window dressing. But are you talking about, I guess it would be
the Nova Sterling.
Yes. All right. So the Lamborghini babes, their like running gag in this whole thing is their car breaks down. They
sex one away from somebody, basically.
Yeah, they sex a hot car away from someone else until that breaks down, and so on and so forth. They start out in a 1984 Lamborghini Countach, which, I mean, that was.
Don't you dare insult this car.
Don't do it. Dude, it was on my bedroom wall too. Okay, I mean, come on, like this was the car that was on everyone's bedroom wall. And the gag where they like wash the white paint off
for no appreciable reason. Like,
yeah.
Okay, but it breaks down because
it's a Lamborghini.
It's a Lamborghini. Yeah. And they sex away this guy's Mercedes Gullwing, right?
With a 383 Chrysler Hemi,
which didn't exist. They did not make a 383
no way anyone
Hemi.
with a Mercedes Gullwing would swap anything into that car.
No, that's a sacrilegious statement. You would get like Mercedes people would come after you for that.
Yeah.
And then they wreck that. They ruin that. They don't even wreck a car. They just keep running them beyond their limits.
Yeah.
Like, and then they find this Nova Sterling thing. So anyway, the cool thing about their path in this movie is they start in this Lamborghini, which has these gullwing, those Lamborghini doors that go up and down. They switch to the Gullwing, which has gullwing doors. And then they switch to a Nova Sterling, which just doesn't have doors. The whole roof just pops up.
Yeah.
And you get but did you look up the Sterling, James? Did you look at?
So we have talked about this before, I think, because it featured a little bit in Death Race 2000.
It's a Volkswagen, guys.
Yeah, it's basically a Volkswagen chassis and engine, or I think some of them might have used.
Some of them had Subaru engines.
Yeah, but I love it because it's what the future looked like in 1967.
Except you weren't passing diddly squat in this thing.
Yeah, it was beyond slow. There was another kit car that makes a very, very brief appearance.
Yeah, I had to look it up.
The
Willow.
And it looks, very similar to like a Can-Am car.
Yeah, like an F1 car.
Not an F1. It's got closed wheels, but like very similar to like a Le Mans prototype or a Can-Am car with a roof from like the 1970s. And you only see it for like a brief second, but man, it looks cool. And those actually had Ford Pinto motors.
They did.
So probably not all that fast either.
Which was my first car, Ford Pinto.
Really?
Was it really?
Yeah.
And you lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Wow.
So wait, I gotta know about this. So what kind of Pinto was it? Was it the hatchback of the wagon? Was it?
Yeah, it was. We had two. So first we had the wagon, and then I had it was like this gold wagon. But then it was like my first car was we went from the wagon to the hatchback, and that became my first car. This little blue hatchback.
What year was it? Do you remember? Was it the one with the big egg crate grill up front, or was it the one with the little with the headlight tunnels?
I think the egg crate grill, but I don't know. Yeah, it was a piece of crap car.
I had a Cutlass Sierra.
Oh yeah.
What year Cutlass Sierra?
Probably, I don't know, 90, 89.
Okay. So it wasn't like you see, there's a Cutlass in this movie that I almost geeked out over. Because they're driving.
Might have been older than that, but yeah.
When they do the chain in the middle of the road trick and tie it to the billboard, and then it brings the billboard down and crushes their car. So that car is like a 83, 84, and I was almost like in tears when I saw it because I saw it was silver with the reddish orange stripe on the side, which usually spells Hurst Olds. But then I took a closer look at those taillights, and it's just a regular Cutlass Supreme dressed up like a Hurst Olds. So it was
thing.
Yeah, it was a good thing. It was a good thing. We didn't need something that special to get destroyed in this movie.
So we also had. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
I was just appreciating y'all's love for cars in this, and that you said just like any other American kid had a picture of this on their wall. And I was like, we really are different. Because I would have had a poster of probably Farrah Fawcett from Cannonball Run on my wall. And that's when Sid and we're filling you in, explained his love affair to where his bedroom really was covered with ads of cars, and he was. Are you similar?
Yeah. I mean, the Countach was my first one. I had a Diablo, I think with like the flames behind it. I think that was like a Pirelli poster or something. Like you could get all these at like the book fair in elementary school, and went on to like I think I had a good 9/11 poster when Porsche did that sort of like maybe they still do with like the white framing and that kind of thing. It was a silver 9/11.
So James, I know time's a little tight, and I don't want to lose Brad before I do this to them. But I always try to ask a question towards the end of the podcast to kind of challenge my guests a little bit. And I think it's kind of obvious what I want to ask you guys this time. You're in a cannonball race. You're going to do the Cannonball Run. All right, we're going to go from here. We're going to go to Redondo Beach.
The Push Comedy Theater is entering the Cannonball Run.
Right. What are you guys driving?
I got my answer.
I think I have mine as well.
I'm gonna get O.J. Simpson's white Bronco. That's what I've decided I'm choosing.
Wow.
What are you going with?
But are you going to get the exact Bronco or just a replica?
The exact one.
Bronco. Yeah.
The exact one. And we're going to go at that speed chase that he did through LA there. It's going to be very slow.
Ed Card will be your AJ Cowlings.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'll wave a gun out the back window. It'll be distraction. That's my pick, Sean.
I would probably go with I'm not a car guy, but I would probably go with my current car. I have a Mazda 5 minivan.
The truckster.
Oh, great car.
Yeah, great car.
However, the reason I bought this is that I had an old Nissan Sentra that was on its last legs, and it was.
I remember your Sentra.
Yeah, it died, and I went to the car lot, and actually a good friend of ours, Thomas Madden, who's done.
We've had him on.
Yeah.
Good.
He hooked me up. We were walking around the lot, and it was literally a week before the Charleston Comedy Festival, which the pushers make a pilgrimage to this every year, and I always have to coordinate, how many cars are we going to take? And I just saw this, and I was like, you know what? This would be so convenient to get everybody down to the comedy festival. And I was like, I'll take that one. And Thomas looked at me, is like, wait, you want a minivan? I'm like, I'm probably going to regret it, but it's really going to help me out next weekend. So
I love both of your choices, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay, the OJ Bronco, get the actual one, and nobody's going to want to touch it because of its significance, right?
Right.
And nobody's going to want to pull it over because they're going to assume that something's going on, right? They're just going to let you go. Like, and you might get an escort. You might get like a fan escort all the way through. The Mazda 5, beautiful choice, and I'll tell you why. As minivans go, it is the only one I think you could get in the modern age in America, save for a couple of Aerostars and grand early Caravans. You could get a Mazda 5 with manual transmission and a pretty sporty engine. It's essentially just a car that they pulled up a little bit. So that is a fast car that looks like a minivan. And you get a little. I can tell you from personal experience. My wife drives an Odyssey. We used to have a Sienna. And I drive a red Firebird and a 68 Cutlass. So when I'm in my Firebird or my Cutlass, I get noticed, and I can't drive by a cop going fast. In the minivan, you do not get noticed.
Yeah.
You can fly by people 75, 80 miles an hour, and the cops don't care.
It's my soccer dad mobile.
Exactly. It's a great Cannonball vehicle.
And I just realized, did you wear that shirt for today's telecast?
No, I haven't taken my shower yet. This is actually the shirt I was wearing yesterday. I mean, Hot Rod, it is, but it's actually for Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
I thought it was the old school cars. Yeah.
No, that's Rowdy Roddy Piper shirt. I actually introduced James to Roddy Piper through this podcast. I made him watch Body Slam.
Also another great Hal Needham movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And
I forgot it was Hal Needham.
and we learned that the hot rod, good actor, you know.
Yeah,
He's really good at his craft.
I did know Roddy Piper before from the classic sci-fi film They Live, which still holds up to this day.
Yeah, when you say Roddy Piper and classic sci-fi, you've got either They Live or Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Frogtown, yep.
Oh man,
both outstanding.
That might be a good one for a future podcast. Ed. We just talk about the van, but also like, God, I got to watch Hell Comes to Frogtown again.
So if you guys want something uplifting brought about by the pandemic, though, it is that I believe I read the unofficial Cannonball Run record has been broken 7 times since the pandemic began.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind me asking, what is the normal time on these things? Does anybody know what like? How long does it take for somebody?
Give me an idea.
Hours.
33 hours, I believe, was the record up until the pandemic.
And how many miles? Is it 3,200 miles? How long are we looking at here?
Yeah, to give you an idea, Dan Gurney and Brock Yates in 71 did it in 35 hours and 54 minutes. Now, Alex Roy was one of the people to reattempt it in kind of the present day, and he held the record of 31 hours for the longest time in 2006. And then a guy named Ed Bolian and some other guys actually from Atlanta reset it again for 28 hours and 50 minutes. And now we've got 2 record holders where one is 26 hours and 38 minutes, and there's apparently an unconfirmed attempt of 26 hours flat. So I don't know.
That's insane, by the way.
That's 26 hours. You're averaging 106 miles an hour.
And did you figure out what the mileage is on it?
It's. I don't think it says it.
Is it just 3,000 basically? What we're thinking?
2,995.
So yes.
So okay, all right. So I'll buy that. I love this. I rode a bicycle across the country, and it took me 66 days. So it's a little bit different. A little bit different. Yeah.
A little bit different. Yeah. So, Brad, you had O.J. Simpson's white Bronco. Sean, you had your Mazda 5.
Yep.
So did you pick a Cannonball vehicle?
I'm trying to remember what I picked when we did the Cannonball Run with who was it? Was it Derek that was on with us when we did the Cannonball Run movie, or was if I had to pick now, gosh, it's tough after all that speaking I just did not to just say. But Sean already took a minivan. It's so tempting to do it in an Odyssey now, especially because your Odyssey, James, has the sport mode in it.
Sienna, but yeah, it has a
you have the Sienna
speed transmission, 300 horsepower, and sport mode. I mean, my minivan is faster than most of the sports cars you saw in this movie.
Wow,
that's just how fast cars have gotten these days.
The fun about the Cannonball, the fun about the whole, conceptually everything is that you pick some kind of a disguise, something to fool the cops a little bit so you can get away with it. And the movie was already based on some of these amazing things. So like the ambulance gig, we can tell worked. That was a great one.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
And you really can get a hot rod ambulance. Is there something along those lines? Maybe what would be great? You would really do it. I'll go with this one. That is a roadside assistance truck. Like the just look like you're out there going to fix people flat tires, but you're just flying along at 90 miles an hour, and it looks like a regular old pickup truck.
Was there already a hearse in one of these?
No, but I was just thinking the same thing. The hearse would be kind of good too.
Well, I don't know if it'd be good. I don't know how you'd explain it. Like why is that hearse going?
Get this funerals in 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's like the body can go. You know what I mean? I think this would be a comedy we would do it, but I want to have Tim Conway and Don Knotts in it.
Oh
yeah, I think that's the way to do this one.
All right, James, what are you driving?
All right, so in the most recent record attempts, you've got a lot of stealth speed, a BMW M5, Mercedes, various AMG Mercedes. The most recent one was an Audi A8. I say, forget stealth speed. Let's make this a challenge. I'm going with a Lamborghini. Because you buy a Lamborghini when a Ferrari just isn't eye-catching and attention-grabbing enough. I'm going with a Lamborghini Aventador in neon green. I want this to be a challenge.
You
Will
want
I
to
be
be
seen?
Yeah.
No, but I'm doing this in style, and I'm doing this completely over the top.
And I hope your co-driver is a mechanic because, like, at least familiar with keeping a Lamborghini running for 3,000 miles.
Yeah, my co-driver will need to be a mechanic, and I'll need to make sure I take the bar exam in every state we're going to go through, so I can represent myself in the myriad traffic offenses that we will undoubtedly be caught, ticketed, maybe arrested for on our way from New York to Los Angeles.
Well, look, I know we're about out of time, and I feel kind of bad because there's some cars we barely even covered in this. I mean, we had a Mitsubishi Starion, which is just a cool piece of Japanese iron that got rebranded as the Chrysler Conquest here. A rear-wheel drive, amazing piece of rubber. And then we had 2 Pontiac Firebirds in there, including one in full police dress, which was so badass.
Did that ever happen in real life? Did we ever get like a real legit police package Firebird, or was that? Because I know we got that with the Mustang and the Camaro. I don't recall seeing a police package Firebird ever.
Fair question. I don't think so.
So they love the Firebird that much they put blue and red lights on it just for the movie. Ooh, there's an idea for my Lamborghini. I think it's Dubai or Qatar, one of those insanely rich Arab Gulf states. They have a couple of like Lamborghini cop cars. Maybe that's what I do. I'd get a police package Lamborghini Aventador.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'll be chasing after you, or you could chase after the OJ Mobile. This is the way we would get across.
Dude, the OJ Mobile is the blocker car. You have every cop car lined up behind you, and then I just sneak by. You know,
I think that's the way to go.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen.
So the way we end it is, for people who have not seen Cannonball Run 2, would you recommend it for them?
Now more than ever.
I'm gonna have to say yes. It doesn't hold a candle to the first one, but it's still an enjoyable watch for all the wrong reasons.
I got to go with a solid yes for both the sparks of greatness that happen by all the cameos, all the actors just not caring and going all out, and for the historical significance of having the Rat Pack together on one last time and acting like the Rat Pack, among other things. Also, last car movie that Burt Reynolds did. Of all the car chase movies, this was his last ones, and this was also one of 3 that he did with Jim Nabors and who was with him. There was a little trio of Burt Reynolds actors who did 3 movies together, and so also this was just even though it was a train wreck of a scripted movie, it's historically significant, and for that reason alone, it deserves a watch.
Mm-hmm. Brad, what about
I'm gonna say yeah, and actually like James's answer in a lot of ways. Now more than ever, meaning the pandemic, you're sort of stuck and cooped up. Cannonball 1 and 2 is a perfect way, if you're a drinker or if you're in the legal states of marijuana, go have fun with these things, or even if you're not. Go have fun with this movie right here, because it is, when you turn on the remote, you will turn off your brain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to get through what we're going through right now, you need to.
Yeah.
You absolutely need to. Cannonball Run 2 will help.
And before we do sign off, there's one thing I do want to make sure we do on this podcast for our Reels and Wheels audience. I think it's important. The Push Theater obviously can't have shows right now, and they've done a lot for comedy in this area and frankly around the country. So right now you can donate, and I highly recommend that you donate. So Sean, Brad, tell us how we can help.
Awesome. And thank you for that. If you go to pusherscomedy@gmail.com, or wait, that's our email address.
It is.
I haven't even been drinking yet this morning or this afternoon. If you go to pushcomedytheater.com, you can buy a gift certificate to one of our shows over to our bar once we do eventually open back up. Or if you want, you can donate. We're doing digital shows or online shows now Wednesday through Sunday. So, if you would have come to the theater and spent $5 on a ticket, maybe, $5 on a beer, If you like one of our digital shows, go ahead and give us $10 for that. Whatever you would have spent coming to the theater anyway. Every little bit helps. So go to Pushers Comedy or Push Comedy Theater at gmail.com. I really need to learn my own website. That would help.
Yes. And for me, I just
in our show notes.
We'll link it up in our
okay,
our
perfect. Yeah.
And for me, I just like to say it's really good to see the two of y'all again. Yeah, really,
likewise.
Really
this
is great.
Faces right now.
Long overdue. Been wanting to have you guys on this show forever, and this is great. Push did so much for James and I. Really, I mean, just the couple improv classes there really lit up my stand up. I mean, it really made a meaningful difference.
Well, y'all are funny guys, but I also say it's fun to listen to y'all talk about cars. Yeah,
yeah,
I like it.
Anytime. Please come back.
And again, echoing what Sid said, world would be a better place if everyone took Improv 101.
That's true.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. And I'm going to go watch Cannonball Run 2 again now.
All right.
Yes.